The world is filled with beautiful origin myths, and anthropologists will give you hundreds, probably thousands of origin myths which have great poetic beauty and which are well worth studying as literature, as cultural artifacts. The particular origin myth that we're most familiar with, which is the Jewish one, which I think has its origins in Babylon, is no more beautiful, no less beautiful than any other. The astonishing thing, and I think it would have astonished Darwin, were he alive to see it still today, is that in many parts of the world that particular origin myth is believed literally. As you say, the world was created in 6 days, 6,000 years ago. Now that's not just slightly wrong, that is gigantically, colossally wrong. And a way to illustrate that is to say, since the true age of the world is 4.6 billion years, to believe that the world is only 6,000 years old is equivalent to believing that, I calculated it, the width of North America from New York to San Francisco is 8 meters.
As an evolutionist, a Darwinist, you obviously don't believe in an afterlife, which is the inspiration for many people as a purpose of life. So, in your concept, what is the purpose of life? Is it life itself?
Well, one kind of purpose of life, the biologist's one, is the one that is the basis of my first book, The Selfish Gene. And on that scientific level, the purpose of life is the propagation of DNA. And there is poetic inspiration in that, but it probably isn't going to be very satisfying to individuals. Individuals make their own purpose in life. Each one of us, to a greater or lesser extent, lives by our purposes. It may be to write a great book, a great symphony. It may be to win a football match. It may be to bring up your children in health and happiness. There are all kinds of purposes that individuals can make, every one of us can make. And we'd better make our own purposes, because this is the only life we're going to get. And so the belief that this is the only life we're going to get sharpens our view of the world. It makes us value life more. It makes us take life seriously, but it also makes us enjoy life to the full, because this is the only life we're going to get. And to lead this life in a less than full fashion, because you think you're going to get another one, is a terrible, terrible waste of the gigantic privilege it is to have a life at all. Because each of us are enormously privileged. If you calculate the odds against each one of us coming into existence, our parents had to meet, not only did they have to meet, they had to have sexual intercourse at a particular time, a particular sperm had to find a particular egg, the same thing had to happen to our grandparents, our great-grandparents, all the way back through the pilgrimage to the origin of life. Not one of us here has any right to expect to exist. We do exist by a fantastic piece of good chance. Don't waste it. It's the only life you're going to get.
How about, there is a more controversial argument when you're discussing the purpose of life and the non-belief in an afterlife. It is when people say that if you don't believe in an afterlife and in religious principles, you cannot have moral principles. I know you don't quite accept that.
No, well, right. The idea that the only reason we are moral is that we believe in an afterlife, and therefore we are striving to be rewarded with the carrot of heaven or to avoid the stick of hell, which is what, in effect, you just said. What an ignoble reason for being good. What a terribly bad reason, what a terribly immoral reason for being moral. I was once on a radio program in the United States, and you had one of these phone-ins. People phone in with their questions. And one man in Texas phoned in and said that if he didn't believe in God, if he wasn't afraid of going to hell, he would murder his neighbor. So I said, you don't really mean that. You don't seriously mean that if it wasn't for the fear of God, you would go out and murder your neighbor. He said, absolutely I would. He said, I would go out and rape the next woman I saw. I cannot seriously believe that there are many people who are only held back from doing bad things by the fear of God. Christopher Hitchens, one of my colleagues who's written another book in much the same time called God is Not Great, he puts it like this. The Bible says, thou shalt not kill in the Ten Commandments. And he sarcastically remarks, do you really mean to say that when Moses came down from the mountain with the tablets that said, thou shalt not kill, people said, oh, thou shalt not kill. Oh, right. Oh, all right, we thought it was rather a good idea to kill.